Pessoal, bom dia. Hoje eu estou aqui com um convidado que tem um projeto bastante interessante na área da música nórdica e folclórica. Inclusive, ele é irmão, né, de um convidado que já veio aqui no canal, o que é o Braaten, no caso ele é o Benny. Ele vai apresentar aqui também um pouco, né, sobre os projetos dele. Ele tem um projeto também muito bacana com um grupo, né, que é o Folket Bortafor Nordavinden, e a gente vai iniciar aqui a conversa para a gente conhecer um pouco mais sobre esse projeto. Benny, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure receiving you. I received your brother here first. He came to the channel and was amazing receiving here. And thank you so much for being here too.
Thanks for having me. I do apologize. I don't speak any Portuguese, so
no problem. It's okay. So for I start the interview, I would like to know how start your interest for being a musician in the art of folk music, in Nordic music. How your connection of your sound with Viking Age have some aspects that you see that was similar to some aspects of the Nordic sound. How do you see that?
I think, it's just happened in a way. I don't think any of us in this so-called scene, I don't think any of us really make this music because it's supposed to be like this or that. I think it's just the way it is in a way. And this scene or this genre of music has come to be after Kjell, after the people from Heilung, after Einar and all this. So I don't think any of us really make this to make, I don't know if you understand what I mean. I think it's just the way it is. And I think probably, coming from the north, we have long winters. There is a lot of mountains and forests. There is luckily not so many people, So I do think this, of course, has an impact. But for me, it just happened in a way. I'm not a singer to begin with. I'm not a drummer to begin with. I'm a bass player, bass guitar player. And then suddenly now I'm standing there, in front of the microphone and mostly just singing and playing a bit of drum here and there, And it's, I don't know, it's just kind of out of necessity in a way. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic. I receive a lot of musicians here, and they also have this idea that have some connection with Nordic sounds, with Nordic mythology, or connections with aspects of Nordic music, and this is interesting to see in this type of song, because we saw that many people have connection with the bands because saw them in some event or seeing some album or some connections with other musicians, other sounds, and this is very unique and fantastic to have this how can I say this type of music, and any musicians have your unique sound, and I think your album have these sounds and unique perspectives. That's fantastic. And you have an album called and that me remember is Origami Galactica, and you have some persons that you invited to collaborate with the album. And what was to create this album, or what was for you create the aspects of the concept for the album and have these guests with you in this?
What album are you talking about now? You were saying Origami Galactica.
Yes, Origami Galactica.
Yeah, but I've released, how many is it? It's 5 studio albums and a live album and many collaborations and stuff over the years. So But there again, I think I can answer your question without knowing what album you're thinking of, because there again, it was things just happen. With the Origami Galactica, I guess especially on the second album, really, where there are more people playing. I asked people I know that are good at things that I was not good at. I wanted this thing to be there, and then I went and asked, for example, the percussion stuff. I asked a friend Henning. He's a really good drummer, percussion player. I asked him to join, and he came for the project. Much better at it than I would have been. So
Oh,
it's
that's interesting. And you have this, I think it's a project or a group, we can say, that called Folket Bortafor Nordavinden. And what is exclusively the activities of the group for people here in the channel that don't know how this work is, or what is ideas that you bring with this group? It's you see that's completely different from your solo career or being here in the on Folk Botafour, or what you see this idea that you to do songs with them?
I think all the music I've ever done is basically the same. It just sounds different sometimes. So I think with folk, it's in many ways it's exactly the same as Origami Galactica. It just sounds a bit different. The intentions are very much the same. I believe in the power of music, or I know the power of music. I don't believe, I know it. And that's what it's about. Whatever way we manage to express that, or bring that power out, it doesn't matter so much, really. I think there's a lot of power in good rock and roll, and there's a lot of power in so-called, I think this is very prejudice from a 2025 Western society, this with primitive, because primitive is some kind of third world concept with poor people that hardly have any food to eat, and they're not smart enough to think about so-called sophisticated things. I think this is very judgmental, and I think it's very wrong. And then maybe now we get to a little bit of this, why this kind of sound like folke. It's very pure. It's very basic, I think. It's not. I'm not a very intricate song maker, I suppose, but I want it to work. And these basic rhythms, I think it touches something inside of all of us, because we are all the same. We look a little bit different, and we have different preferences of this and that, but basically we're the same. And I think one of the reasons maybe why all this focus on the so-called Viking times that a lot of people have these days, I think that is because that was the last time our part of the world was living, with nature as these so-called primitive cultures. I don't think there is any primitive in the modern sense of the word in listening to nature, understanding the languages of different kinds of animals and different kind of places and elements and all this stuff. I don't think there is anything primitive in that. I think it's highly sophisticated, really. And us Westerners, we get lost in the intellect, and we never come out of there, many of us. And then when we're lost in the intellect, we don't listen, or at least we don't hear. So I'm thinking maybe that's one of the reasons why so many people are focusing on this, because people want belonging. We want to feel that we are not alone. We want to feel reason. The mystery of life. Why are we here? People are still thinking about that, and I think in this tribal, primitive, it's a more natural way of being, simply. It's, city life is not really a sustainable way of living. a city can never sustain itself. But, going closer to nature, you can do that, you can survive. And I think this is very, very important. So I think that's the thing I like the most about this scene thing, I don't listen so much to this music or anything, but this element I like about it, that there is a spiritual awakening, and for many people that seems to come from these directions then. Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. So, you don't make sounds for being thing like, oh, this is a Viking Age music. You do for think that this for being more about aspects of nature, or of things that was very common to anyone. But I think people, when sometimes have the impression that, oh, I will listen this because this remember me. That was a Viking Age experience. I probably. What did you see this when people say, "Oh, I listen Benny because it's for me is a Viking Age music"? All the impressions you have when people come to you and say, "Oh, I love your songs because remember me a lot." How Viking Age music could be.
Well, if they like the songs, I'm happy for that. I'm grateful, But we have never said that we play Viking music. I have never heard Einar say that Vardruna are playing Viking music. I've never heard Kjell say it, really, my brother, even though he's using the Viking music website name, or at least it was. And with Folket, I've made a conscious choice there because we mostly use the elder Futark, the rune alphabet, and that was a little, also to date it before the so-called Viking times, because I think the expression that we have, it's much older. People have been playing with rhythm and air things probably for a very, very long time, And we also do throat singing. Do we believe that the Vikings did throat singing? No, maybe, but maybe not. There is one source that we can twist into that, and we sometimes do it when we play the markets. But that is also to tell the story. We're not saying that the Vikings were throat singing. Now all the Viking bands are doing some kind of throat singing, but there are no written sources really saying that. It's just one or two places referring to some kind of ugly, noisy, guttural sounds or something, So, but it's powerful and it works. So, and it's fun to do. So, another thing, if I can just go on a little bit about the creative thing with Folket. One of the reasons why we are using, for example, there are many by now, songs based around the runes. And in a way that when you go into the runes, I'm not an expert, And I wrote that also in the liner notes of the first record that, this is a part of my journey. But it's kind of mantra-like, and I think you can say a lot if people want. I mean, if they want party music, hopefully they can use it for that, or background music. Or I know some people like to do workouts, physical workouts, and listen to Folket. Whatever way is super. But if you want to go deeper, to meet these runes, I think you can. I believe that you can travel with them. You can go into them. You can read about them and feel them, and then it's like mantra singing. And then I think we can say a lot of things without using the common words, and maybe the individual understanding of it becomes, bigger or easier to grasp or something when we're not saying everything in detail. We're laying out the cards potentially creating a space where you can go deep into yourself, because that's what it's about, isn't it?
Oh, that's interesting when we see this, because we have some particular aspects of folk song and other types of that are related to Nordic songs. And for you, what is the importance to create some aspects to have these sounds connected to the folk? What people sometimes think that folk music was an aspect that are very related to some, how can I say, some mystical song that were related to some fantasy, or maybe it's another conception. What is you see the aspects of to creating folk music?
I mean, folk music is the music of the people. That's what it means, people's music. So whatever people do at any given time, I suppose, then becomes folk music over a period. But when you go, to the old folk music, I believe that music in the so-called primitive then cultures, I think music is a very, it's a part of everything in everyday life. When you do the dishes, you hum, or you're moving rhythmically, make it, maybe you sing. If there's more people, maybe they sing together. The same when you work in fields, you chop wood in a rhythm. Everything is in rhythm and melody. I think this is also probably one of the reasons why there isn't that much writing about this, because if it isn't a part of everyday life, well, you wouldn't waste expensive materials like hide to write it down, I think. And there's something in that fascinates me. And I believe this, I don't know, this, you were referring to fantasy. I believe that if you read into Norse mythology, for example, and since we are talking about this, I believe that these creatures have existed. I don't think mythology is fantasy. I think mythology is writing down the histories of the different people that write them down, or they repeat them for, hundreds, if not thousands of years in some instances. And then at some point, some of it gets written down. I don't believe it's fantasy. I think it's, the chronicles of those people, those cultures. Of course, things change over time, and things may get more, monstrous or mysterious or something. But I think there's an element of truth in there. I believe that there has been a lot of creatures that we don't know about today, and maybe even as close as the so-called Viking times, there might have been creatures that we don't know about, and maybe the Norse mythology, you know, is way older. Also, it's based on other things, and it also corresponds with a lot of other, sacred stories from around the planet. They all add up very well. It's just that the modern narrative try to dismiss this. Yeah.
No, that's an interesting point. When I was reflecting this, that was, as I said about the fans, is because people commonly say, "Oh, think this folk music was very related to the concept of uh, elven dwarfs or dragons or many of these type of how can I say, these aspects, that these elements that were part of this, and this we saw that in many perspectives, that people say, oh, I love to think in folk music because they told the histories about these elements, and I love to appreciate because of that. And this is interesting when you told that probably. they have some aspects that was true in Norse mythology, and they in Norse mythology tell us about many aspects that was related to the Viking Age societies, and this is fantastic when you bring this idea. And I saw that you are an artist with a very presence in much more in the stage with public audition, and this is very fantastic when I saw these presentations. And for you, what's the experience that you think are more very unique? And do you see that have some points that saw, oh, they have think they have a little difference between these two experiences, like being in recording experience or with the concert experience? How for you this work?
Uh, First of all, I guess many people don't know this because many people now and I'm grateful for that, but many people now know us. For example, in Brazil, and if there are people that know us over there, apart from you, I know a couple of others too, but they know us. You also know us through the album or the albums and the Midgardsblot Festival, where we are on stage with microphones and light and all this stuff. But we come from the street, this whole thing with, Kjell, Gustav Holberg, me, we all come from playing the Viking markets and sometimes literally on the street. And with Folket, we still do that. Then it's usually Espen and Erik and me from the band. We just went to Birka now, an island outside of Stockholm. It was, they say it was the first city of Sweden, and it was the trade center, or at least that part of what is today Sweden, for 200 years, from 750 to 950. 3,000 graves on the island, or more than 3,000 graves on the island, and super place. But there we are standing, just in front of you, and we need to. If you walk past us and we're about to go on, it's my job to go out and make you my audience. So that's in many ways, it's a challenging way of performing. You never know who you're going to perform for, and you never know what kind of circumstances are there, even though, like in Birka and many other markets, you play 2 times a day or something, maybe 3. But every time is different. Sometimes there is hardly anybody there. Sometimes there's a lot of people there. Sometimes people are, and luckily with us mostly, people are attentive and they enjoy being there with us. But it's a very playful thing. And you need to meet people. You need to see people in the eye, and grab the moment. Feel into where everybody is to make this work together. It's a very different thing when you go on a stage, and those that come there, they come there to see you perform. They come to take part in this moment, but they come there with that intention. When you do the markets, it's everything. We have jobs that we still keep because our audience, we have to pick them from people riding their bicycle to people walking their dogs, people out with their children, and all this kind of stuff. And it's our job to gather them as an audience and communicate with them and make this thing work for all of us. So, but I'm happy that we have this, because I think it makes it also more efficient when we go on stage, because we still, we have this directness. We didn't have, I think, for the first, let's say, maybe 11 years of Folket's existence, I had microphones 2 times or something. So it wasn't really until the 3rd year at Midgardsblot that we started again, bringing it back on the stage, so to speak. So we've all played in rock bands and this, So, it was the 3rd year at Midgardsblot that we started using microphones. And this is also great because it opens up for, much more dynamics and, more exciting arrangements and this. because when it's all unplugged, you have to struggle to be heard over the drums, and you don't hear the other guy singing, or this kind of stuff. So I like to have a bit of both. Does that answer your question somehow?
Yeah, perfectly. And yeah, I think it's been amazing experience because um, we saw for videos and thought that have this concept idea of being very close to the audience that was in the festivals, in the events, and this is a very unique moment, I think, because everyone was in the same energy and the same connection, and this is, I think, it was a very precious time when we saw for this site. And you say that you have a rock band, and for you, it's the same experience to have the folk band and a rock band, or has some difference? What do you see about the two aspects of people that was in your concerts, or you have a different type of energies? What is for you the experience of doing these works?
I think folk is a rock and roll band. I've always thought that we just sound a little bit different, but energetically, I think we're a rock band. All the rock bands I've played in, I mean, my reason for being in them, I'm not making everybody else responsible, but it's always been the same. I know it works. And I've always, I think, no matter what kind of music I've been a part of creating, I like to think that one of my strong points is that I have presence and a whole lot of energy that gets somehow channeled into or through whatever kind of music it is. So it's not really that much difference, especially with folk when we're on the stage. I think it's very much a rock and roll experience, but there are no long guitar solos.
Yeah, I think it's have been amazing be part of this two words, but I have some similar of experience of being in a band and doing the sounds. I think is fantastic in both. And the use of two instruments for you to use some the shamanic drum, the some instruments that are part of this. How does this work for you? How do you feel that was this is have some importance for produce the sound of this project or your solo project? How is the use of the instruments for you?
The nature instruments speak to us whether we like it or not, I think. We are nature. When you use nature instruments, the frequencies harmonize with the human body and energy fields. I think maybe that has. I know that with folk and probably, or I know also with Vardruna, for example, Heilung. There is a lot of people listening to these bands that seems to be, slightly surprised that they like these bands so much, because it's not like what they used to listen to or what they usually listen to. And I think that has to do with, there are sounds of nature, also the rhythms, the primitive rhythms, they go well with the body, the heartbeat, being creatures of nature, we also follow, there's a whole lot of rhythms that we follow apart from the heartbeat also, it's movements of the sun, the growth and declining growth with the seasons, and all this, we are also a part of this. So isn't it then also natural that the sounds that are made with natural things will affect us in a often very strong way? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is a thing that was an experience that for every musician have his own experience with these instruments. And I think it is fantastic when we saw these different visions, because we saw this connection with the instruments, like a powerful using of that for expression and for using to connect, and the sound, the using of the voice and with the instrument creating, I think, a unique moment when you have this connection with of the powers of nature, of to create this experience with the some heritage moments. And I think it's an amazing view of this side of the music. I think it's unique, in my opinion. It's a fantastic side of the music to have these traditional instruments to complement the music in when work with in this part. And I would like to know for you how it is experience for creating lyrics to or we have some, what is your experience that you love to put to create some songs, or you have this idea of, oh, I love to put ideas of much more related to the folk or to mythology or experience that are more personal to me. What do you define your lyrics?
I think I I don't think I can write without it being, you know, self-experienced, or whatever comes through me is a part of me. Um, but I feel very much with Folke that maybe this sounds stupid to you, but okay. But I feel I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. On the second record, uh, I wrote, what did I write? Received and performed by, because I feel this is coming. This is asking for me to do it. Now on many of the new songs, we have started looking at the Old Norse texts. So we're using verses from Vålesbo, the Seer's Prophecy, and Håvamål and other places. And they're also, I, in a way, I think I get pointed in the right direction of where I should look, in a way. So, yeah, I feel I do what I'm supposed to do. On the second album, the single Hagalar, when that came, Hagalar is, it's a powerful rune. And when that one came, I was a little bit like, oh, okay. I wouldn't say I was afraid of using it, but I was a little bit like, okay, are we going there now? Because it's a powerful one, and it has to do with transformation and all this, and there's a lot of elements to that which are easily experienced as challenging. So a lot of it, for me at least, is not really so much an intellectual process. It's more about taking a step to the side and not letting the intellect be in the way, so to speak. I'm also surprised, sometimes from what comes. So, yes, does it answer?
Yeah, I don't think this is stupid. I think it's I when I have a lot of friends that are musicians, they say that they have this experience that, oh, the music came and I produced this. The music was part of the that I am, and sometimes I don't have some explanation what this happened. I only have this experience. Music came and I produced them, and I think this is a different experience. It's fantastic because music keep turning natural. I think for you and for people that have this experience with that. And I think it's a fantastic experience and another side of scene music. And for my last question, I would like to know your future plans with your projects. You have been, we have more CDs or more concerts, shows. How is your agenda for this year or probably the next?
We are, as I mentioned briefly, we are working on the next album. We have quite a few songs, and but at the moment we're in the process of figuring out a lot of stuff. We have a whole new setup of, or close to a whole new setup of instruments and stuff. So we need to land everything, but we have quite a few new songs. And then we have a couple of festivals as a band coming up in August, Midgardsblot, and then most of us goes to Tønsberg Viking Festival the week before. Next week I go to Hafrsfjord to play a market. But I would love it if we could manage to have the next album out. It's probably too late now to get it out this year, but at least, not too far into next year. And that's going to be, now I have a steady lineup. With Folket, it's always been a lot of different lineups, but now it's been the same people for close to 2 years now. So it's going to be the first time we make an album with the lineup that is active in a way. So it's also really cool. I think the new songs are super cool. It's very interesting to sing in Old Norse in this. So when I'm going a little bit off your question, is it okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
I think with this, when we do some of these verses from these Old Norse texts and stuff, it's very interesting because I know Scandinavian. I'm a native Scandinavian speaker. And I think when you know Scandinavian and you look into these texts, they are very, very, very deep. And this is also interesting. So I'm enthusiastic about seeing, how far into that material we will go. And I'm also, working on understanding more of the Old Norse language and the way to use it. So, maybe we will also start writing in that. On the second album, the lyrics are in Norwegian, and because I want people to know what it's about. Then in the CD and on Bandcamp, you find the lyrics in 40 different languages. They're in Norwegian as they are sung, and then in English, German, and Spanish. So, but when we go for the Old Norse, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud now, but that's a very interesting part of the process that we are in. And I think most of the next album, at least, if not all of it, will be Old Norse things. So that's also a part of our package right now, is to get better at that simply, and then these festivals and get the recording of the album done. So I think that's, we have quite a lot of stuff to do, but we're slowly getting there.
Oh, that's amazing. I was very excited to hear the new album, and probably one day see a concert when I make a travel to some to Norway or some country of Scandinavia. And thank you so much for being here doing this interview. Was amazing meeting you and meeting your brother when I do the interview. You are both are fantastic persons. Amazing have you two here. It's a big pleasure. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you. And Brazil, take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll just stop the recording.